Might want to join me at the dais. We don't have a quorum yet.
No, we don't. We got one so far. Okay.
We got a quorum of 2. I don't think that's going to cut it. Nay.
We're here.
Uh-oh, we got a quorum of 3. I know I saw Commissioner Maddox.
He's here.
Commissioner Gillum was in town yet.
He's here.
He's coming.
Okay, this February 13, 2013 City Commission meeting will come to order. Madam City Manager.
Would you please stand and join me in the invocation? God of love and life, as Valentine's Day approaches, we pause to give thanks for your unconditional love and grace. Help us to continue to demonstrate brotherly love to all, and may the spirit of your love rest, rule, and abide in our hearts always. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. First of all, before we start, I know we go to agenda modifications, but let me take an opportunity to say just a couple of things that I look a slight bit different than the last time you may have seen me. And this is what happens when you have some surgery and too much time on your hands. And so I didn't feel like shaving while I was recuperating, and it kept growing and kept growing and kept growing. And so I've got a few compliments, but the final arbiter of this will be a lady by the name of Jane Mark. So we'll have to wait to see what she says about it. I want to take an opportunity also to thank the Mayor Pro Tem, Mayor Miller, for doing a wonderful job in my absence. It was not a long absence, but she did a wonderful job in keeping the ship right. And Commissioners, I want to thank you for your patience while I was out for 4 weeks or so. 4 weeks or so. And everything seems to have run well. Thank you, Madam City Manager, and other appointed officials as well. I'm fine. But I wanted to just say that. Now, are there any agenda modifications?
We do have a few, Mr. Mayor. We have item 5.02, which is being deleted from today's agenda. We had the National Weather Service coming to us to make a presentation, and they will actually make it on another day. We also have 3 additions to tonight's agenda. One is item number 5.05, update on Tallahassee support for Newtown, Connecticut. Pastor Ivory Guyton and Minister Anthony Dowling will make that presentation, and we added 2 target issue updates. One is quality of life, and the other is financial viability. Target issue update, both of those committees met today, so they do have reports for you.
All right.
Those are all of the agenda mods that I have.
I guess we're on presentations right now, and we're on 5.01, and that's Mr. Kearney. Will Rick Kearney please come forward and provide us an update and a presentation on the Renaissance Community Center? Mr. Kearney and his assistant passed out something earlier for us, Commissioners. It's right next to you.
Hi, good evening. My name is Rick Kearney of 6949 McBride Point. Commissioners, Madam City Manager, and other distinguished guests, it is my privilege to present to you an update tonight. About a year ago, I stood here and presented a concept that was underway with this Renaissance Community Center across from the City and County's Renaissance Center on Virginia Street. We subsequently opened. Many of you attended or have come by since. And I would say is one of the most successful projects in our community for the homeless that I could have ever imagined. And I hope that this little preview video of what we are doing will give you a snapshot of that. So without any further ado, I'd like to launch the video. And then I'll make just a few remarks and introduce some key people after the video. Have your handkerchiefs and tissues ready.
Okay. Well, I know they, okay.
Where'd you sleep last night?
At the shelter.
Shelter. Even. Outside. Street.
Oh, well, I was in McDonald's or whatever in the night.
The Renaissance Center is something we just kind of dreamed up. I mean, I was the Johnny Appleseed. I put some money into a building. We had no idea what was going to occur here until it started occurring.
What's next? Good morning. So, what do you need this morning?
Shower, first of all.
Computer and the phone. Just laundry? Just storage? Anything else?
What's so cool is we have over 28 providers that come here on a regular basis.
Would you like to talk to somebody about some housing ideas?
And people walk in here thinking they're going to get a shower or use the restroom, and they end up walking out with an ID card, food stamps, new clothes on their back, maybe housing, and a lead on head jobs. That's never happened in Tallahassee before.
Okay, so if my chance,
They'll give you the map, and I'll give you bus tickets to get there.
Okay.
The back.
Well, you can get us 3 interview outfits and a celebration outfit, because we are speaking it into existence. You are getting this job.
Before, it's hard to find help. It's like they have all these different agencies that are open, but it's like they send you in different directions. Like you're spinning in circles and you don't know what to really do or where to go. But at the Renaissance Center, they go out their way to help you. And you don't have to go here and here and here. It's in one spot. Because everybody doesn't have transportation to get to these different places.
They get to that Renaissance Center. 9 times out of 10, whatever the bottom is up in there, they got
Somebody's
something.
going to help you.
Down to your left. There's one.
We moved in here Friday.
That's payday Friday, yeah.
Yeah, we wasn't expecting to get this place this fast, so just a whole lot of people have been helping us.
I don't know, we call it, don't even know.
Yeah.
I came in yesterday and I asked them if they give me a bike for my daughter because I just had got laid off the job. And they told me to come back the next day.
Earl?
I thought they were joking. But they wasn't. Thank you.
I've been around. Out of every place I've been to, there's no other place that I personally, with my 2 eyes, have ever saw that comes close to us. I wish there was more places. I wish that this place could be advertised neck-wide.
I'm good.
Okay, are you okay?
Thank you guys for what you did for me Thursday.
Well, we were concerned about you.
That's
We
what I
were
was
worried.
told.
Okay.
Things are wrapping up for me, so hopefully I'll be honest. Rena Center, whoever ideal it was, the guy must have somebody or must have been somewhere in a situation where he'd been out in the cold themselves. Because that place there is saving lives.
Okay, well, I hope that was 4 minutes well spent to communicate what we're doing. And Mayor Marks, I would like to congratulate you. This is really a spin-off of your Homeward Bound project that you invited me to participate in. I could see a lot of paperwork churning and very little activity evolving from that. I know there was activity that did evolve, but this is something that we could do, I could help do right here, right now, and a couple of years later, we now have a center that is unprecedented. We had Secretary David Wilkins of Department of Children and Families visit last week. He said there is no other center like this of this caliber, of this quality in the state of Florida, doing as much as we are doing with the center. And if anybody would know, I would assume Secretary Wilkins is apprised of those things. So it's a credit to all of you. It's a credit to every commissioner who supported us, to the team in the back of the room that helped us with permitting and all the other ancillary support services we receive, everything from police and city services, community affairs, and so forth. So this has been a team effort. We have representation here from the community, agencies, faith-based providers.
Stand up so we can see, please. Thank you.
For those viewing from a distance and those of you that have the paper on your desk, at some point, take a look at these statistics. There are 6 people a day that come into our center that are new to homelessness. 6 people a day, men, women, children. And we see that they are not all from shelters. They are from the street. They are from motels. They are from their cars and university students and so forth. So the population is very diverse. And we have a team of over 30 agencies, both public and private, that are working in their behalf. The next thing that we're working on, because that's probably what's in your mind, what are we going to do for this year, is employment, employment, employment. These people need jobs. And what I have 3 gentlemen from FSU School of Entrepreneur. They're graduates. Stand up, guys. There's 5 of them, actually. 2 couldn't be here. I call it my Fab 5. They are going to create 100 new jobs for openers for this. And this is everything from window washing to greeters at nursing homes to gardening. We've talked to residents in homelessness. You can sit down. And they've got ideas about poetry books and art, stuff that we can sell at the flea market. So we are going to create 100 new jobs that don't exist today, and we're just going to light a spark that hopefully will grow and grow and grow. Not just here in Tallahassee. We're going to change the world with what's going on here. I'm open to any questions. Otherwise, I'm finished, and I thank you for your indulgence of the time.
Well, thank you, Rick. Thank you. I can tell you that I certainly like the idea, and I like your enthusiasm about changing the world. I think that's very admirable, and you can count on me to help you change that world as much as I possibly can and whatever I can do, because the efforts that you put into this are just really outstanding. We're going to have a report later on by Commissioner Ziffer on today. We had today's meeting of the Quality of Life Target Issue Committee, and we did discuss with Susan Porshaw what we can do and what can happen. And I'll just make a couple of comments on that. You're right. I've been working at this for quite a while, almost since I guess I became mayor. And we'd get to a certain point and certain things would happen, and then it wouldn't happen. And we get to a certain point, we get a continuum of needs and services, and something would happen. The economy, or we didn't get the appropriate funding from federal government, or we just didn't. We tried a lot of things, and I asked you to serve on that particular committee, and you did. And you've come up with some ideas. And we also asked Susan today, what can we do? We need to accomplish something. We need to make a dent. We need to make sure that something happens. And she gave us some ideas which we'll report about. But this, too, is something that we can point to as happening in our community, that you've done, that makes this issue of homelessness a lot better than it was in the past. And we're going to support you. I'm going to support you. I'm sure this commission is going to support this effort. But we've got more work to do. We really have more work to do. And so I am very, very pleased that and we have seen something concrete, something tangible that really has happened for this community. I want to take this opportunity to thank you very much. I have no questions whatsoever at all. Madam Commissioner, ma'am, go ahead.
Rick, I just wanted to thank you for coming back with the report. You had promised us last year that you would, and you did, and I very, very much appreciate that. You know, government can't do everything. And you stepped in and you had an idea of what needed to be done and were able to implement it, and it's just very, very gratifying to see what you've done. Thanks.
Commissioner.
Anybody? Commissioner?
just thank you for elevating the solution beyond providing a meal and a place to stay, because it'll never be a solution if it's that. And for so many years, that's been the focus. So I live not too far from here. And I appreciate you having a holistic attitude toward how can we solve the problem. And the most exciting thing, that was a tearjerker. I'm going through and seeing that, just a human element. The most exciting thing about what you said was your Fab Five, because that's a solution. It's not just a temporary Band-Aid, it's a cure. Thank you for your work, Mr. Carney.
Mr. Gillum.
Yeah, Rick, I want to express my appreciation to you as well for your really what has been a long years of commitment at this work. I also want to thank the providers, frankly, who, the system so often is set up to make you all competitors with each other because the dollars are so limited for a vast amount of services that has to be provided. And for you all to get over that very important hurdle of trying to make sure your resources to do the work that you found it your mission to do and is serving a purpose is really, that's a model in and of itself, to have folks act outside of themselves and figure out how you work more collaboratively together. Rick, you and these partners join Susan Porcio and folks with the coalition, Homeless Coalition, who are also doing very thoughtful and strategic types of engagement to help cure and eradicate homelessness in this community. And I'd be remiss if I didn't also recognize Mel Eby, who I would believe was voted Person of the Year by the Tallahassee Democrat and other voters. Because of the hard-charging work that is to house people every day, every night, to make sure that they're taken care of. And I know Commissioner Ziffer will probably reflect on this, but we went over to hear the point-in-time survey results from the shelter, and to hear at any one point in time, and this is just a snapshot, that 1,000 people in this community don't have a place where they can reliably lay their heads at night, take a shower, get a meal, so on and so forth, is a travesty and should be completely unacceptable in a city like Tallahassee. And I appreciate the leadership of the mayor wanting to move this forward. And one of the comments I made during the point-in-time survey release, as I mentioned, a saying that happens in my church and probably in other faiths as well. And it is, but for the grace of God, there go I. And essentially translated, it is, but for, my mother or my cousin or my friend who took me in last night, I wouldn't have had a place to sleep or eat or clothes to wear. But for the fact that I got paid 2 weeks ago and am expecting a paycheck in another 2 weeks, so that I can pay my bills, I might be the one who's out and who's homeless and who's in need. And so the thinking that some people in this community have that somehow you've done something so wrong to deserve this unfortunate position, I think is really problematic. And we have to continue to do our jobs to make sure we put a different face on homelessness in this community and really work towards some long-term solutions to eradicate it. And so thank you, the partners, and thank you for those of you all who in your everyday work are doing what is often thankless work. It is work of the heart, but it is work that is absolutely necessary to improve the quality of life of people at all levels of our community. And if we're not about that, we're not about anything. So thank you for that.
Before Commissioner Ziffer, I know you want us to say something. Let me say this. This is a very complicated issue. There is no one bullet. There's no one solution. But this is a piece of it. So we're going to break a little bit of a tradition. I'm going to ask Commissioner Gillum, if you will, just give us the target issue report related to the homeless piece, if you will. Give it to us now so the rest of the community can hear what we discussed with Susan. Susan, you want to come up? You're out there. You ready to do that?
Sure.
Okay. Susan Porshore we had a target issue meeting on quality of life today, and Susan gave us a report. And I'm going to ask Commissioner Gillum if he would kind of summarize, and if you have any questions for...
Here, you give it.
No, it's your committee.
Commissioner Ziffer, what did I say? Gillum, I'm sorry. Commissioner Ziffer, go right ahead.
Well, I just want to, before I give the report, Rick, thank you. You've sat down before I give you the opportunity to thank you. I think having so many providers in one location and being able to solve any singular person's problem with one visit or two visits is really quite remarkable, and it's something that we've been needing for some time. And your numbers are very impressive, so thank you for not only you, but also all of the volunteers and other people that are associated with the center. I also want to, and I'm not sure if any of them are here, but the point-in-time volunteers, there were over 100 volunteers that went out a couple weeks ago, truly remarkable. Having gone out for 2 nights and spent a couple of hours with my group, different groups each night, the reasons people are volunteers, the different ages of the volunteers, why people are out there. I've mentioned that on both evenings for me, there were people that had been homeless that were actually volunteers out taking surveys. Truly remarkable. And I think that's probably something that would help us as a community, and that is the most important thing that I probably learned, having been out there, is it wasn't what I expected. And I think there's a general fear in the community of the homeless, and there shouldn't be. There really shouldn't be. And I think Commissioner Gillen touched on it, and that is there are so many people that are just one paycheck away, or one slip and fall away, or saying something wrong in their household away from being homeless. But I will say that I think the solution, while there are many different groups that have many different needs, that have many different problems, the real solution to homelessness is homes, is people in places, not warehousing, but actual housing, where they have a place that they can call home. And those are for those that need to find work, or those are for those that have the inability to work. If you're homeless, the solution is to remove the less and have a home. Susan, I'm going to give my report, which, since it was fairly brief because it would happen today and I'm dealing with bullets, I'm going to allow you, if you wouldn't mind, if it so pleases the commission, why don't I give you just a couple of minutes, if that's okay?
Yeah,
to give a report, and I think that'd be better for all of us, so thank you.
Well, thank you, and thank you for this opportunity to speak extemporaneously about homelessness in Tallahassee and Leon County. First, let me also add my applause to the work that's being done at the Renaissance Community Center. One of the wonderful things about that effort is the bringing together in one place of services and options for people to learn more about ways that they can work their way out of homelessness and find housing. So I think that many folks who ultimately move into Hope Community or Home Plate or the Veterans Village or the Housing Authority apartments first found their way to those locations through the work of the Renaissance Community Center. And that has been a wonderful kind of one-stop opportunity so that folks aren't kind of running all over town trying to find out what they can access. Turning to the point-in-time count, one of the things that we found this year, just as background, every year the Big Bend Homeless Coalition coordinates what in effect is a one-day snapshot of who is homeless in the community, kind of looking at what their needs are, who they are, how they became homeless. And this year, as Commissioner Ziffer indicated, we had about 100 volunteers that went out 3 days in a row from 5:30 a.m. to 10 p.m. and surveyed people who are experiencing homelessness. About 1,000 people were identified as homeless in our community. We know that's an undercount because we didn't talk with everyone who is homeless. Even saying that, however, that's a big increase from last year. We also know that over the course of a year, a lot of people might move in or out of homelessness. So over the course of a year, there might be 4,000 or more people who experience homelessness locally. So it really is a quality of life issue for our community, not only those who are homeless, but for those who care about the quality of life in our community. One of the things that we attempted to do this year is to delve into more detail about why people are homeless and how vulnerable they might be. There is a large segment of people who are homeless for whom the answer is jobs. And so we're looking forward to the Fab Four and team working on that, and also the economy turning around and more good-paying living wage jobs being available. There's another segment of the population for whom working is not a solution. Many people who are homeless have disabilities, whether that's a physical disability or a chronic health condition or mental health or substance abuse issue. Now, that is a minority of those people who are homeless. So going back to the issue about there's lots of different ways this looks, that's true. But maybe 20% of people who are homeless will probably never be able to work. And unless there's a permanent housing option available to them, they will be homeless for the rest of their lives. So one of the things that we could look at and need to look at in our community is identifying housing options for those people for whom work is not a possibility, and really look at housing those folks for whom homelessness is a life or death issue. People who need dialysis, have liver cancer, a variety of different problems. At the same time, looking at ways that we can work together better is always important. As we discussed earlier at the Quality of Life Target Issues Committee, there's much overlapping. 30% of folks who are homeless are also over 55. So there's some senior issues, there's violence issues, especially for women and children. So there are many ways in which we need to look at that kind of tapestry of issues. But as Commissioner Ziffer indicated, helping people move into homes is the ultimate solution to homelessness. And many things have happened over the last few years. The Cold Night Shelter effort that is coordinated by the shelter is very and supported by the community is very effective. We opened Homefront last year, which provides permanent housing to 50 formerly homeless veterans. The VOA has new permanent housing options available. So there is a lot of progress happening. Would we like to say that we ended homelessness in 5 years? Absolutely, because then the job offers for me would be off the charts. And our community would be well served by that. You're not allowed to leave. But much progress has been made, and much progress can be made in the next few years.
Thank you very much, Susan. Commissioners?
Well, on a personal note, and it was what I started, and I'm going to just bear with me. From a community standpoint, there are people that are in homelessness, that are homeless, that have other options. And certainly the Renaissance Center is helpful. But there are those out there that if you're within my voice and you hear this, either reach out to the Renaissance Center or certainly You'd Hope Community. And if you have time, sometimes they need just a hand getting to the different places or solving their problems. And a lot of them, the longer they go homeless, the greater chance that they're going to be in homelessness for quite some time. Because you begin to lose, I would think, some dignity and other self-confidence issue. So if you feel like you have the time, and if you feel as a member of our Tallahassee community or Leon County that you'd like to help, contact one of these groups and lend a helping hand. Because while we have 1,000 on any given day that might be homeless in our community, getting one person's problem solved is huge. And so thank you for all you do, and Rick, thank you for all you do, and all the volunteers that are here, and all the other organizations. You're doing work that, quite frankly, if we had more people helping, this would be a lower number. So please, lend a helping hand.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rick and Susan. This is a little bit out of order, but I think it was very important for us. We got individuals in our audience. We want to let you know we have not neglected this issue, and we haven't. Thank you again for the report. Thank you. Now, we're moving on. Thank you. A little bit different topic now, slightly different. Mr. Brian Pelk, is he here? Brian Pelk, are you here? You got to come up here. Okay. Mr. Brian Pelk is with the Nature Conservancy, and he's going to join me at the podium. And anybody else who's with Mr. Pelk, please. This is something significant for our community as well. We'll let those wonderful individuals depart. Thank you very much for being here. The City of Tallahassee is proud to take part in celebrating National Invasive Species Awareness Week from the 3rd through the 9th of the month of March. National Invasive Species Awareness Week will highlight efforts to prevent or slow the spread of invasive species that are both non-native and harmful to the environment, the economy, and human health. We value the incredible biodiversity in our city and in our region, and we understand that exotic invasive species can alter our biodiversity, rendering habitats unsuitable for native species. The City of Tallahassee recognizes the importance of biodiversity and the threat that exotic and invasive species can have on our landscape. Therefore, through the various city department activities, the City of Tallahassee is committed to doing its part in helping to control and eradicate invasive exotic species. However, such efforts require collaboration from various sectors of the community, including government, residents, and property owners. Currently, the City of Tallahassee is working along with IFAS. You're going to tell us what IFAS is in a minute, sure. The Nature Conservancy, and other groups to develop a collaborative community education program to address the control of this invasive exotic species. Also, I urge everyone that is here and tuning in to look forward to WCOT Channel 13 airing a segment on Tallahassee matters regarding Invasive Species Awareness Week. Therefore, in recognition of the National Invasive Species Awareness Week, I would like to present this proclamation, and it reads as follows. Whereas invasive aquatic, riparian, terrestrial species influence the productivity, value, and management of a broad range of land, water resources in and adjoining the City of Tallahassee and Leon County. Whereas after habitat destruction, invasive species are the second greatest threat to biodiversity. Whereas invasive species are a significant threat to almost half of the native species currently listed as federally endangered. Whereas the cost to prevent and monitor the control of invasive species combined with the cost of crop damage, fisheries, forests, and other resources cost the U.S. $137 billion, billion with a B, annually. And whereas invasive species threaten the survival of native plants and animals and interfere with the ecosystem's functions by changing processes like fire, nutrient flow, and flooding. Whereas the City of Tallahassee's Parks and Recreation and Neighborhood Affairs, both city golf courses, public works, property management, and your own utilities department, along with other city departments, actively incorporate best management practices for management and control of invasive species. Now, therefore, I, John R. Marks, by the authority vested in me as mayor of the City of Tallahassee, do hereby proclaim March 3rd to the 9th of 2013 as Invasive Species Awareness Week, and hereby encourage residents to participate in local invasive species control efforts, to become familiar with invasive species impacting our region, and to further promote their knowledge and understanding of the threats posed by such invasive species. Thank you very much for what you're doing, and sir, you've got the podium. Thank you.
Very much. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And let me just say, thumbs up on the facial hair as a member of that club, too.
Yours looks much better.
You don't want to get it the way I got.
Our ecosystems provide clean water, cleanse our air, and provide us with rich soil. Indeed, the very ingredients required by all life on Earth. By proclaiming Invasive Species Awareness Week, the City of Tallahassee is taking an admirable leadership role against impacts to our health, prosperity, and our overall sustainability. All exotic invasive species, by their nature, silently destroy extensive acreage of our fine lands throughout Florida. They do this by replacing native plants and animals, by fundamentally changing ecosystem processes, and consuming the dollars needed for other essential land management. All efforts put into invasive species control today, especially at a local level, will greatly reduce future effort and expenses. Together, through partnerships between land managers, municipalities, and our citizens, we will work together to make meaningful progress in controlling and hopefully eradicating exotic invasive species from Tallahassee and our surrounding areas. With this proclamation, the City of Tallahassee is demonstrating its commitment to prioritizing the control and/or eradication of invasive exotic species. On behalf of the Nature Conservancy, we want to thank the City of Tallahassee for stepping forward with these meaningful conservation efforts to preserve our natural resources. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Paul. Gabe and the rest of you, thank you so much for that. I think now we're going to turn to the city manager.
Actually, Mr. Mayor, I believe we have a presentation that will be made first by Ms. Kim Minchion on the MLK Dare to Dream.
Okay, we're going to do that first? Okay.
Yes.
Sure. Come forward, sir. Oh, you're over there. Okay. Go right ahead.
Okay.
35 and under.
To the commissioners and Madam City Manager, Mayor Marks, thank you for allowing me to share with you the highlights from the inaugural Martin Luther King Dare to Dream Festival. It was held January the 21st, 2013 on Clayman's Plaza. Please allow me to introduce myself. I'm Kimberly Clark Minchin. I'm a local attorney here, and I'm the president of the Martin Luther King Dare to Dream Association, Incorporated. With me, I have the vice president, Kenneth Tate, and I have the secretary, Tiffany Johnson, and the treasurer, Byron Minchin. We also had an organizing committee, but they were unable to be with us today. The Tallahassee Downtown Improvement Authority also partnered with us in order to have this festival, and we were awarded a CRA grant. The festival focused on community outreach and was supported by and partnered with local organizations and businesses, as well as both universities. The mission of the festival is to celebrate the life of Dr. Martin Luther King and his dream of freedom, equality, and harmony while inspiring others to dream. So in short, we strive to celebrate, educate, and inspire. You'll see from the photos that are rolling some of the highlights from the festival. We know that Tallahassee prides itself on being family friendly, and we had a kids zone in which we had the bouncies and birthday cake. We also had a historical exhibit. It was put on by the FAMU Black Archives Research Center and Museum, as well as the Riley House. We had a Serve Today component in which festival participants can learn about volunteer opportunities, and we also had a voters registration booth. Local vendors were present and offered diverse offerings of products. We had various cultural performances from local talent, such as live bands, salsa dancing, and folk music. One of the special parts that we had was some line dancing, and you'll see from some of the photos people enjoying, that's one of them, people enjoying the line dance. Shonda Knight was our hostess for the event. One of the unique components was the inspiration component. And what we did was we had a wall, and it said Wall of Dreams. The theme was Dr. Martin Luther King had a dream what's yours. And the point was to inspire individuals to dream a dream for themselves, their family, the city of Tallahassee, and this country. And so people lined up to put their dreams on that wall. We envision that the festival will only grow and has the potential to have a major impact on the city of Tallahassee by bringing people to the downtown area at a time when otherwise wouldn't see much activity. We enjoyed serving and helping to create a new tradition in Tallahassee, and we thank you for your support.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Really well done.
And related to that, you may stand right here, or you may come with me. I have a proclamation that I would like to read, and it reads as follows.
You want to bring your committee? They didn't want to come, did they?
They don't. They better come on up here then. Thank you. How you doing, my man? See you all. Hey. Whereas Dr. Martin Luther King Dare to Dream Association, Inc. was founded by Ms. Kimberly Minchin and committee members Keith Tate, Tiffany Johnson, Byron Minchin, Brian Fairhurst, Keith Morrows, Kenneth Pratt, Anita Franklin, to provide an enriching, educational, and entertaining family-friendly experience that highlights the legacy of the late Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. for the communities all in the city of Tallahassee. Whereas the MLK Dare to Dream Association found it prudent to seek the expertise of the Executive Director of the Council on Cultural and Arts, Ms. Peggy Brady, and leverage the partnership with the Tallahassee Downtown Improvement Authority, represented by Mr. Alan Thompson. And whereas the event drew over 750 participants in its inaugural debut, and whereas driven by their vision and passion to impact citizens' lives by bringing quality festivities that illuminate the incomparable works of a legend, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., while fueling the minds of children and adults alike, and of the need to keep the fires burning in pursuit of equity for all. Now, therefore, I, John R. Marks III, Mayor of the City of Tallahassee, do hereby invite all citizens of Tallahassee and the surrounding communities to recognize and express their appreciation for the work and community service provided by Kimberly Minchin and the Martin Luther King Dare to Dream Association, Incorporated. So thank you very much, and here's their proclamation. Thank you, sir.
I heard a rumor that the city manager actually danced at that event.
No, but the commissioner, I started to say Commissioner Mushin, my goodness. Commissioner Maddox did definitely dance at that event.
Okay, he was there?
Yes, he was there.
All right. Okay, next item.
The next item, Mr. Mayor, is an update on the support for Newtown, Connecticut. Pastor Ivory Guyton and Minister Anthony Dowling are here to give a report on their trip to Newtown.
All right, let's hear that.
To our mayor, commissioners, distinguished guests, my name is Ivory Guyton, senior pastor of Discovering Life International Ministries, been pastoring here in the city of Tallahassee for 15 years. First, I would like to say thank you for getting behind the vision. We had the prayer visual here in our community at Lake Ella. Also, we thank you, Mayor Marks, and to this commissioner board here for sending and allowing us to take a proclamation to Newtown, Connecticut. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over into the hands of my chief of ministry of Discovering Life to give you an update. Anthony Dowling.
Thank you, Pastor. Good afternoon. Before we start, I want to give you or allow you to see two particular pieces of mail that was sent to Newtown, Connecticut. And when we got there, one of the individuals, one of the managers said, "Can you please take something back to them?" So I want to give this to you, let you guys look through this as I give my quick presentation.
Pastor, give it to Commissioner.
One of the recurring themes that we've seen on this afternoon is people helping people. whether or not it was the Renaissance Center or the MLK event, there were people helping people. So when December 14th, 2012 happened, Pastor Guyton came up with this idea of how can we as people help people? He asked himself, what can the city do to show the city of Newtown that we support them, that we stand with them during this tragedy? And hence the idea of the prayer vigil. We had the opportunity to partner with some individuals, and you'll see them on your screen. Tallahassee Democrat, WCTV, Superintendent of Leon County Schools, local pastors, and of course, the city and county leaders. Less than 4 days, we put this prayer vigil together, and I can only just, one second, I'm sorry. This is such an awesome event, and you never know how much people care when you try to lend a helping hand. So I'm trying my best to contain myself here. So, but on December 18th, less than 4 days, we were able to put together this prayer vigil and host it. We had different speakers, including the Leon County Superintendent of Schools, county commissioners. Mayor, you had the opportunity to speak, and we thank you for that. And these words became a catalyst for the healing not only of our city, but also Newtown. So we say thank you. On to Newtown. January the 15th, me and my pastor had the opportunity to go to Newtown. And as you drove into the city, this is what you saw. A big flag that represented that we were all united in some way or another, no matter the background, your ethnicity, your economic status, that we were people, we were humans, the common element. And that's what the theme that we want to continue to carry. You'll see in this picture just the post from Newtown and Pastor Guyton. We had the opportunity to attend a concert called A Night of Hope and Healing, and it was a Christian-based concert, but it was to promote that we will recover. We can do all things if we come together. This is the lower part of the flag, and of course, like I mentioned before, as you enter the city, there is a tent called the prayer tent, and this is me and Pastor standing outside the prayer tent. These are some photos from inside. This is the last visual that is present in the city. And so before they took it down, we were able to attend and be there. We also had the opportunity to visit a few places while we were there. This included the City Hall, a Calvary unit, and Newtown Middle School. And these are some of those pictures. This is something I definitely wanted you guys to see. In the City Hall, there are over 250,000 pieces of mail that was sent from over the country, from around the country and across the world. And this is just a snippet of that. So thanks to you, we were able to deliver the proclamation from the city and a proclamation from the Leon County Superintendent of Schools. And so we say thank you so much for your support, and be looking forward. We're gearing up to do a program that will promote family time and help fight type 2 diabetes. So be looking forward to that. And with that, if you have any questions, feel free to answer them.
Thank you so much for.
Thank you very much for that presentation. We certainly hope that we certainly appreciate that you took the opportunity to go to Newtown and represent the city of Tallahassee and let them know what this community feels about that tragic circumstance that happened on that day. Thank you very much, Pastor. We really appreciate it. Thank you so very, very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item, Madam Manager.
We're on number 8, Mr. Mayor, citizen input on agenda items.
Any citizens inputting?
Yes, Mayor, we have a number of speakers. The first will be Curtis Baines.
Mr. Baines.
I believe all of the speakers for this portion of our meeting are on item 1301, the public-private partnership.
Public-private partnership.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. Curtis Baines, 1323 East Tennessee Street. I hope you can hear me okay.
We can.
Okay. My purpose tonight is to urge you to vote no on the proposal before you this evening. This came up as a result of the February the 1st meeting of the Sales Tax Committee, and it came up late in the meeting. And as they were discussing about some of the issues, I thought Imagine Tallahassee was the name the Economic Development Council had given to what they were proposing. I didn't realize it was a private nonprofit until much later. But during the initial meeting, during the meeting that day, as they were going around the room talking about how to proceed and everything, 3 things came to mind that were troubling for me, and I wanted to point out. First is that the Sales Tax Committee was talking about 2 different due dates for projects. They've done a great job over the past year sitting through an awful lot of exciting and boring presentations. None in this room, none from anyone in this room, I'm sure. But you know, that's been going on for the past year, and I don't know how many projects were. The last time I counted, there were about 70-something on the list, I think. Probably a couple of $1 million. I don't think anyone has told that up yet. But we were talking about 2 different due dates, cutoff dates for the projects that we were going to consider. One for everybody else, and one for the Economic Development Council, which is going to be brought up about 6 months later. So my first concern is that we're setting up 2 different due dates for projects under this process. The second thing that came to mind as they were talking was that we were talking about 2 evaluation processes. The first was over the course of the next 6 months, take a look at the initial projects, cut some of those down because there are a lot of them there. And then once we've cut those down, take a look at the economic development projects that come in 6 months. You know, I think we ought to have one cutoff date, either now or later, whichever that date is. I think we ought to have one evaluation process. We either evaluate them now or we evaluate them later, but not 2 different processes to compare them at 2 different times. The third thing that concerned me was that during the process, they were talking about taking a subset of the Sales Tax Committee to participate on this Imagine Tallahassee Super Committee that they're forming to help to develop ideas and projects to later be presented back to the Sales Tax Committee. And then finally, subsequent to that, it came to my attention that we now have a private organization where one of the principals is one of the sales tax members who is now going to be facilitating this project to develop this visioning process, or to work through this visioning process. So that's anyway. So that's the reason I had concerns about it. I thought you ought to take a little closer look at it, and I was urging you to not approve it. Thank you very much.
All right, next speaker.
Next speaker is Kim Williams. He will be followed by Winston Howell.
Thank you. Kim Williams, 2069 Cantigny Way.
I do serve on the Sales Tax Committee, and I have been a past chair of the Economic Development Council. I will tell you that Imagine Tallahassee is a separate group. While it is discussing the economic vitality of Tallahassee's future in a forum that allows for a lot of input from a lot of different people, it is not a product of the Economic Development Council. As far as the two different due dates, and Mr. Baines is right, there are two different dates. There's a set aside of up to 15% of the total tax that would not be committed until after the review of the Imagine Committee's report. Doesn't mean that all or any of that report would be accepted by the Sales Tax Committee. There are some overlaps of people that serve on both, but it's primarily because they are actively involved in our community in ways that affect and are affected by economic development. I think it's primary and it's important that before we move forward with that economic component, we make sure that we put all the stakeholders at the table, including Florida A&M and FSU and TCC and city and county governments. If we can come away from this table with a common vision, it will take away the silos that we all sit in today that are so close together, almost touching each other, to where we don't have that many differences. We are much more together than we've ever been, but we just need to take this step to have one common vision. It'll mean so much to our children, and if you're my age, to your grandchildren, and to our students who graduate from our universities. There's a lot of talent there. There's an opportunity to integrate that talent into the local job creation efforts that creates diversity for our workforce, that makes this a better place to live, and that's all any of us want. So appreciate y'all taking the time to review it. Know that it's an effort to, and it'll be in the sunshine, that will be to try to allow Tallahasseans to have input, and before that segment of it's completed. Thank you.
Next speaker. Next is Winston Howell, and I believe he is the last speaker at this time, Mayor.
Commissioners, thank you very much for the opportunity. I'm going to speak about 13.01 on your agenda, and I would encourage you to vote in favor and support of that particular item on the agenda. This particular process, the Sales Tax Committee, you're very familiar with it. You're an integral part of it. Each one of you have had different appointments to that. And what I would ask is that we all just remind ourselves that over 13 years ago, 14 years ago, when the original citizens process began, we all call that particular blueprint. It was a broad-based citizens group that found common ground with regard to creating a vision for our particular community and a funding of infrastructure projects that have really been a game changer for our community over the last 10 to 15 years. We think that what you have initiated together with the County Commission in looking at this and appointing this particular Sales Tax Committee and this process that they've been engaged in over the last year is very, very significant. And we think it's not just a game changer. We think it is a change in the sea, or sea changer, if you will allow me to use that particular term. In support of that particular initiative, what we remind you of, in light of all the particular discussion and debate, is that process may not be perfect. That particular Sales Tax Committee has struggled through that and debated and vetted that particular process, which is exactly what you asked them to do. But at the same time, the city and the county have both retained control over that particular process together with the sales tax. The Imagine Tallahassee that you're going to look at 13.01 is one of those things that would not change any of that. All it does is it creates an opportunity to create a vision with regard to economic vitality and sustainability. As the current chair of the Chamber of Commerce, as a past chair of the Economic Development Council, we would encourage you to be able to do this. This is a unique opportunity for our community. We have so many different groups that are interested in being able to participate in this element, from the universities to the commissions to our government. And we think this is a unique opportunity, and we would strongly encourage you to be able to support that process and the process that you've instituted that would not change through this. It's intended to be inclusive, broader base, and allow for a broader input than just limit it to 18 people or 25 people, but to engage the community through this. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any more speakers?
No, sir.
Next item on the agenda, please.
You're on consent, Mr. Mayor.
Pardon?
You're on consent.
Move consent.
Second.
Properly moved and second. All in favor of consent, say aye.
Aye.
It passes unanimously. We will discuss, we're going to get to 13.01, but later on in the agenda, okay? Next item.
The next item is under City Commission, and it is item number 11.01. and it has to do with the Commission on the Status of Women and Girls, and Commissioner Miller is going to make this presentation.
Thank you, Manager, and Mayor and Commissioners, and I appreciate you giving me this opportunity to make this request of you. As you probably have heard, in April of 2011, the Leon County Commission appointed the Commission on the Status of Women and Girls in Leon County. They had a $10,000 to support staff. They contracted with the Oasis Center for Women and Girls, and that center provided $10,000 plus in support over the year, finally coming to the point where, working with the Commission, the Commission on the Status of Women and Girls, they presented their report in November of 2012. This is the most amazing report that anyone has ever delivered for $10,000 in investment. And I'd like to say a few more things, but I want to recognize Haley Cutler, who's the Executive Director of the Oasis Center, and also Robin Thompson, who's the Chair of the Commission on the Status of Women and Girls. This report wasn't particularly rosy, I would say, for women. I would say it was very unrosy. In just about every area that they evaluated and gathered data, the look for women was not all that bright. Virtually all areas of professions throughout the community, women were paid less. I think we should, first of all, Commissioners, vote a raise to all women in the community, but I'm sure that'll show up on the...
Are we voting on that tonight?
Yes, well, hey. No, we can agenda that for next meeting. That was one thing. The dropout rate is higher of girls in Leon County, is higher than the state average. But the most distressing statistic for me was that 58% of single women, single moms with children under 5 are living in poverty. Now, what do we do about all this? We've already talked about the homeless situation, and poverty is a major problem for women, especially because of pregnancies and dropout rates and so on. Well, now we have the report. The commissioners on the Commission of the Status of Women and Girls were appointed for a 2-year period that ends in April of 2013. Leon County has already reaffirmed the existence of the committee, and they have already allocated $10,000 to continue that wonderfully priced staff support that they got last year, and also they have raised that another $10,000 for more research and development. The next phase is that the Commission this year will begin to develop concrete recommendations as to how to raise awareness and how to create mechanisms to meet this challenge. And what I'm asking you tonight is to step up and get on the train. I think this is an issue that we ought to be supportive of. We ought to be looking out for the women in our community, in our city and our community. And I believe that with a contribution from the city, we will be able to expand the work that the Commission is able to do this year.
As part of the recommended action,
Well, first of all, I'd like to ask Haley and Robin to come up and give you both.
I don't think we need any additional. I think what we need right now is to get to the point of this and find out where the funding is going to come from. What about the funding?
We have recommended funding in contingency, Mr. Mayor.
We do have the funding for
Yes.
it? I think that's what you want. You want the money, right? Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I want to thank Commissioner Miller for bringing this forward. It's something that I think probably all of us have been discussing for quite some time, so we appreciate your efforts and certainly everybody that's involved with us, and I'll move the item knowing it comes from contingency and we have it.
It's been properly moved in second, and I think that would be the funding source, appointment process, and other appointment information. At our next meeting, what does that all that mean?
That means that we would bring back to you an item that more clearly defines how this would work, because you would have an appointee on the commission that is upcoming. The terms have ended for the 2-year group that was appointed originally by county commissioners.
Okay, so is that one appointment from this commission or one appointment from each of us?
It'll be one from each.
From each of us,
Yes.
okay.
There's a question.
Actually, I believe there's a 21-person commission. Last year, 14 of those were, and you can correct me if this is why I needed help from them. 14 of those were appointed by the county commission, and 7 were appointed by the commission itself. This year, we would appoint 7 folks, they would appoint 7, and the commission would still retain the ability to appoint the other 7. But honestly, the names on this group are just stellar. They have performed miracles as far as research this past year, and they have also co-opted all of their friends and neighbors into helping with graphics and surveys and just unbelievable access of community resources. So that's how that would work.
Commissioner Gillum.
Yes, want to join you in your support and in your motion and congratulate the citizens who have been working on this. I don't even know if I have a choice on this vote. My wife was on the on the Florida Commission on the Status of Women and has been. There's not a conflict because she's no longer on it, but these are issues that are very, very close to both of us in our household. And I think what we'll want to do, because I think it's not good to move down in this direction unless we are also thinking about what the continued support for this effort looks like. And so there are some rules around our human services funding process that can sometimes get in the way of coordinating councils. And so we've kind of dealt with them as direct allocations. And so in this next budget cycle, I hope we'll set ourselves up for success so that, we're not dealing with these as one-offs, but that we deal with them within the scope of trying to make some changes to that process and make coordinating councils a category in and of itself for continued resources. But I'll personally measure your success by whether or not you get any more Nancy Millers up here on this dais serving in office. But really, I looked at the report, very, very thorough job, looking throughout the various sectors at the role and impact of women, the contributions of women, and really raising that issue up in a much more thoughtful and I think strategic way. So thank you for your work there.
Commissioner Maddox.
I just want to commend Commissioner Miller. When my first commission, when I got elected many years ago, was 3 women and 2 men. And I've seen it change over the years back and forth. But this is one of the many reasons why we need you as a commissioner, not just based on your gender, but based on your willingness to delve into issues regardless of depth and bring back cogent policy for us. So thank the ladies that are here and the work that you have done, and thank you, Commissioner Miller, for bringing this to us, and I'm looking forward to supporting it as it goes through the process.
Well, I'll just say, Mr. Mayor, I'm very disappointed. Commissioner Maddox usually starts to claim new identities, Jewish, black. I thought he was going to say he's a woman, and
what's your point?
I'm very upset about this.
Inside. Deep inside.
Don't go there.
Here we go.
Commissioner Miller got some additional comments.
Well, I just wanted to say that this year, this would be, they have several activities that they will be delighted to tell you about, and as they've already defined their work plan for the year. A contribution from us will definitely make that gives them much more ability to do much more. They are basically classified as a citizens committee with us, and they'll come back next year with recommendations, and at that point I think we'll be looking at actions on the part of our institution as to how we can further some of the ideas that they have.
Just a quick question. So the 7 appointees that we have, when you bring this back next commission meeting, will you make a recommendation how we identify the 7? Very good.
Yes.
Okay. I'm the only one that hadn't said anything. This is extremely, extremely important. I can't express, everybody has expressed the same thing. I think we can take a lead from our President Obama, and what he has said in regards to the unequal pay for women, what he has said with regards to treating women as objects as far as medical conditions are concerned. If you listen to him very, very carefully, he is leading the way on this. And I think this is just a small way that we can also, small but important way we can support that effort in this community. So I want to thank you all. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I want to get you the money so you can do what you want to do, okay? And that's what, we'll get the details, but, I trust you. We're going to give you the money. You're going to do a good job. So all in favor of the motion, say aye. Commissioner.
One more thing, two more things. This report, for everybody that's interested, is on it's a wonderful, the report is much longer than this, 150 pages, I believe. This is the summary, very well put together. I'd recommend it to all of you if you haven't had a chance to read it, and really lays it out there as to what the status is. And finally, the Commission will be holding 2 public hearings. One is Thursday, February 21st, 6 to 8 at the Chairs Community Center. And the other one is Thursday, February 28th at noon to 2 o'clock at Workforce Plus, which is located at 2525 South Monroe Street. So I just want to get that in before we...
Mayor.
We got it. Yes.
Before you vote, let me also acknowledge we have in the audience with us Ms. Kelly Oddie, who was the originator of the idea of bringing together a commission on the status of women and girls.
Raise your hand, Kelly, so we can, there you are. I can hardly see you. You're behind Richard Jr. there. He's kind of blocking the way there. We got a motion and a second. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
It passes unanimously. That is item 1101. Thank you. Next item.
The next item is item number 13.01, and this is the item regarding the approval of the Sales Tax Committee's recommendation regarding Imagine Tallahassee. And Commissioners, on February 1st, 2013, the Sales Tax Committee approved a proposal to work with Imagine Tallahassee Incorporated on a public-private partnership endeavor to conduct a community visioning exercise that would guide the use of economic development portion of the sales tax if approved by the voters in 2019. Imagine Tallahassee plans to contract with a professional consultant to lead a community visioning process that would culminate in an associated action plan. The request to the Commission is to set aside up to 15% of potential sales tax dollars to be used to implement economic development plans coming out of this effort. J.T. Burnett and Kim Rivers are here, and they're going to tell you more about Imagine Tallahassee. And I think Jay may want to also make some initial remarks before they come up.
Thank you, Madam Manager. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Commissioners. I'll be brief. As you're aware, over the past year, the Leon County Sales Tax Committee has been working towards identifying those potential capital projects that could be considered as part of the new sales tax referendum that would replace the existing blueprint sales tax that expires in 2019. In that process, as the manager stated, over the course of the past month, a citizen-based organization really called Imagine Tallahassee Incorporated approached the Sales Tax Committee to request that the committee agree to recommend to the city and county commissions that a public-private partnership be formed to identify a vision and associated action plan on how the economic sales tax portion of those revenues could be used in the future. The specifics of this partnership, again, what the manager has stated, will be further explained by J.T. Burnett, Kim Rivers, and Sean Pittman. Includes the creation of a community-wide steering committee made up of representatives from a variety of government, private, and nonprofit organizations throughout the area that would then work with a consultant hired by Imagine Tallahassee Incorporated with support from city and county staff to identify the vision and create the action plan for the up to 15% of revenues that could be used for that purpose. Again, as the manager stated, the cost for the consultant would be borne by Imagine Tallahassee, so that's not borne by the government entities, and it estimated that the effort would take up to 9 months to complete as part of that process. The results of the effort would be presented to the Sales Tax Committee when completed for their consideration and inclusion in the ultimate recommendations that the Sales Tax Committee submits to the City and County Commissions. So again, that's about 9 months from now, you would see a finalized version of the recommendations. Again, the steering committee would operate within the Sunshine Law, so it would be open to the public as well as anything that's created from that. And just as an FYI, the county commission approved the recommendation last night at their hearings.
They approve it as is, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, with all of the participants?
Yes, sir, they did.
Okay.
So with that, I'd like to ask JT, Kim, and Sean to come up to give you a little bit more details.
Very briefly, okay. Who's on first?
Video.
Who's on second? Who's on third? Okay.
Somebody's got to be at home.
Yeah, somebody got a home plate. Who's covering home base? Oh, Kim, that's good, okay.
Good job, Jay.
Never fails.
Where's Michelle
Where
Bono?
is Michelle?
Give him practice this thing.
Michelle?
One job, Jay.
Mark.
At least it's Jay and not someone else.
Here we go.
Oh, we got it.
Sound?
Who would you be thinking of? Where's the sound?
Oh, well. Michelle, I still don't have it.
There you go.
I think you need to turn it up a little bit louder.
I was just hoping that Scott Maddox was going to dance.
Okay.
Apparently that didn't happen.
2-3 minutes.
It's too short. I'm here with Imagine Tallahassee. This has really been an amazing thing to see everybody come together with an interest in having a unified conversation about our community. What we've seen is that Blueprint before has really changed the game in our community. And what we saw is that with Blueprint, there was a real request for citizens' input. And what we see Imagine Tallahassee is a great opportunity to be that citizens' input. And in Austin, this process engaged 18,000 people. What you see happen is a very important thing is the change process, an exponential change. And what I like to look at is, it's hard to believe, but the iPhone is less than 5 years old. Apple before this was viewed as a good company. Our community today, we're a good company. We're a good city, we're a good county, we've got chambers, higher ed, we're good. This is the ability for us to come together as one and be great, exponentially be great. That's what happened to Apple. 5 years ago, they were good. With one change, one simple change, the iPhone, within 2 years, they became great. This is a chance for our community to become great. And thank you.
Thank you, JT.
Who's on second? Uh-oh, we got another one. Turn it up a little bit, Jay.
One job, Jay.
I'm trying.
Like that twice.
It's loading. Michelle.
Taking a long time to load.
I tried to read.
Do I?
Talks,
I'll talk
Pittman.
while this works here. Sean Pittman, do you have to give your address here?
Yes. Yes, you do.
Okay, 3010 Thomasville Road. And I'm excited to be here. And the first part is to congratulate you and thank you for the outstanding people that you put on the Sales Tax Committee who are doing an incredible job. They're speaking for you, they're speaking for the citizens of this community, and they have a huge job ahead of them. But everything they do, every discussion they have is about this great opportunity that's happening in Tallahassee. The Imagine Tallahassee idea is not new. It's just time for it to happen here. A lot of the places that this is kind of weird, right? I'm not used to this. I'm married. Right. Many of the places that we compare ourselves to, that we look at and we say we want to be like them, a lot of them have gone through what is called visioning. And this is an opportunity, with Blueprint being where it is and the Sales Tax Committee having the job that they have. This is a great time to really stop and try to answer the question of what do we want to be? Let's define ourselves and then head in that direction. So Kim is going to talk about what's being asked, but as Winston talked about the importance of this idea to the Greater Tallahassee Chamber, me being here representing our new chamber, the Big Bend Minority Chamber of Commerce, I can't tell you how important this is. And with what we're asking you to do, the one thing that we have to keep in mind is that you have the final say. The final say of what happens to whatever is available for economic development in this community. Whatever comes out of the visioning, you have the final say. And I think that's a great thing, because at the end of the day, any economic development that happens in this community, any visioning, needs to involve the entire community. And the Big Bend Minority Chamber would absolutely want to make sure that some of these dollars, whatever you decide, if any, should be balanced and represented, and some of the things that we benefit from as a community, we want to benefit all over the community. The other thing that I think we ought to keep in mind and be proud of, and one of the reasons why I jumped to be a part of this, is we don't often see our private citizens jump up and say, you know what, we'll fund this, we'll raise the money, and we'll make it happen. And on top of that, we'll let you control it. We just want to see it happen in this community. And who knows what comes out of it? Maybe they're great ideas, and maybe we just say, you know what, maybe there's not great ideas. I doubt that. But the bottom line is you have the decision, and I think it's time. And I think many of you think it's time. So we appreciate your indulgence and your patience. We also appreciate you really helping the Sales Tax Committee and helping Imagine Tallahassee really do what we all want, and that is to be in a place, live and grow in a place that we're proud of. Thank you. Kim?
Which Kim? Which Kim? Oh, the good-looking Kim.
Remarks like that. Not allowed to make remarks.
During this break, I want to thank Michelle Bono for the seamless
video presentation?
She just left.
That didn't happen.
All right. Kim Rivers with Imagine Tallahassee. What you would have seen in that video is clips from an event that we held that some emails went out, and we ended up with over 100 citizens at an event a couple weeks ago for Imagine Tallahassee, excited and enthusiastic about the process. And so we took that opportunity to get some of them on film with their thoughts in terms of what they loved about Tallahassee, when they came here, and what they envision for our future. And so we'll hopefully distribute that to you all after the meeting, because I think it's important for you to see the diversity that's represented in that group. So the ask here tonight is very simple. It's just for you all to, one, hopefully get behind the Imagine Tallahassee effort. I think that you all have talked a lot about community vision as a group, and we applaud you for that. And so that's number one. Number two is to support the sales tax recommendation that they put forth back to you. They endorsed the process. They endorsed this diverse steering committee that has been presented to you and discussed. And finally, they suggested that the 15% just be set aside until after this process is completed. There was lots of discussion around the fact that that is not a commitment of 15% at this point, that it will be debated and considered relative to the other projects that have been up for consideration on the infrastructure side. And we don't know where that conversation will end, but it at least will be a conversation that can be had with the benefit of extensive citizen input and discussion through the Imagine Tallahassee effort. And finally, for your commitment and support from a staffing level. We as private citizens understand that there is a ton of research and valuable information and lots of work that comes before this particular group, and we would quite frankly rather not start from scratch. So the benefit of staff on this is the history and the support and the guidance that you all have, and we want to look at this as a public-private partnership because we think that that is the model that will ensure the most input and therefore the best result. We're happy to answer any questions. We have been completely invigorated by this process and the discussions that we've had over the last 45 to 60 days. Our community is poised to really make that exponential change that JT just talked to you about. We're happy and thankful that we live in a community like Tallahassee that's ready to take this on. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kim.
Is that it? Yep. Is it? We'll start with Mayor Pro Tem. You got something?
Well, first of all, I wanted to say thank you for attempting to do a visioning process, because this is a great idea 15 years ago, and we just couldn't get it off the ground. So as I've shared with you, I'm really happy this is a way to actually involve the citizens in some of the decisions we're making for them in the future. One of you, I think it was Sean Pittman, referenced, we will let you control it. And I feel that he was saying that he will let our governments control it. And I really don't think that's what we're looking for here so much. What I hope that we have at the end of the day is a picture of what our citizens want to see their city be in the future. We have the opportunity every 2 weeks to control that, and I want this opportunity to go out to the citizens of Tallahassee for them to tell us what they see through this structured process. So I just wanted to be clear about that. Staffing, I don't really know exactly what kind of staffing you're going to need, so if you could define that a little better. And then finally, the two-date process that Mr. Baines brought up, when we began to discuss this, now you're making a list of all these questions, I'm getting them out so you don't have to come back to me. When we've all been discussing this, it sounded like to me that the sales tax committee says go forth and do the visioning process and then come back to us, and then we'll look at your results and then we'll make our final recommendation. That was my understanding of the process, which alleviates the need for them to come forward with some other report at some other time. So I wanted to be clear about that.
Let me answer your question about staffing. Basically, the city manager and the county administrator are proposed as members of the group.
Steering
And so whatever assistance that we would need on both sides to help further the process.
You're staffing it.
Yes.
Let's go right down the road. Commissioner Ziffer?
Sure. Back, it was last year, I had stated I had some concerns about, we had suggested, I think, up to 10%, and I was supportive of the economic development portion. I just had some concerns as far as how it would end up being spent. So this solves a lot of those problems. I am glad that you have come to us at this meeting because the list of members keeps growing, and at some point I'm concerned that you're going to have to move to a conference room to the Civic Center because that's a big group. That's a large group, and I look forward to hearing how you manage such a group. At some point, you get to realization that having too many opinions prevents you from probably coming to consensus. I hope that doesn't happen. On the other hand, it is well represented by just about every single group we have in this community. So I look forward to seeing the results. And now I'll, I guess, pass it on to Commissioner Gillum.
Well, I want to enthusiastically.
Let me say about Commissioner Ziffer in the group, the steering committee. No, I'm just a comment on the steering committee. While it's real large, and it's 25 people on there, but I'm concerned that there may be some areas in our community that's not represented.
Sure.
That's one of my priorities.
I'll just respond briefly to that, to the best of my ability. One, the size of the committee was recommended by the consulting firm. So they felt, we called and asked for best practices and what has worked in other communities, and that was the number that they said was a good typical representation for a community of our size. So it wasn't something that was made up. The second thing that I would just respond to is that you're right. It can't be perfect. It's never perfect. If anytime you're going through a process like this and you've got a defined list, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how it ends up and the product that ends up, there is a kind of a cutoff point, and so we agree with you. And at the Sales Tax Committee, I will tell you what happened there, and I've gone over it a couple times, is the Sales Tax Committee, there were 22 folks on that committee as it was presented to the Sales Tax Committee, and the Sales Tax Committee made a motion to approve that list, but to add the remaining 3 spots to be appointed by them. And so they filled out the balance of that committee, and that is the list that you see before you, and that's the list that was approved by the county. So the last point that I'll make is that this is intended to be an all-inclusive process.
Say that again?
This is intended to be an all-inclusive process, okay? And to the point that I think might have been missed from JT earlier, when this exercise was completed in Austin, 18,000 citizens participated. There will be numerous opportunities for input at a lot of different levels. This is not going to be a single committee that meets and that's it. That's just not how this goes. All the way down to, Mr. Mayor, these meetings in a box where we can get down, hopefully, and the intent is to get down to neighborhood associations, to get down to PTA groups, to really make this a community-wide process. So, I'll just leave it at that the intent was to be inclusive.
Well, I see the intent as being inclusive, but I'm still a little bit concerned that there are certain segments of the community not represented here. And in particular, I'm looking at this whole thing in the south side of our community. I don't see where there's representation from the southern part of our city, the south side of our community. I just don't see it there. I see a lot of people that, generically, I see somebody from the northeast section, although the name is northeast section, but I'm just concerned about this corridor that we've got trying to do on Monroe Street and what's happening down on Orange Avenue, and those areas in our community are not participants in this process. I'm concerned about that. And we got 25 slots on here, and where are they?
I think, Mr. Mayor, I think you'll find a lot of that representation in the Big Bend Minority Chamber of Commerce, the Capital City Chamber of Commerce, the Ministerial Alliance that comprises of really a lot of the ministers on the south side. And there's one other
Nonprofit organization.
Yes. So there's, in my estimation, there's about 5 organizations that make up a great deal of the South Side.
Good.
Let's not
It
forget.
doesn't mean we haven't missed someone.
Well, let's not forget also Florida A&M University's presence as a part of the group. And Mayor, I would just add, I mean, one of the reasons why this idea, one, I should make a motion for adoption.
Second.
2, you used the example, Kim, of imagine Austin and the over 18,000 citizens that they engage in this process. I think the steering committee is one part. More important than the steering committee, and no offense to the people who will serve on that committee, are the numerous outreaches that they're going to be responsible for to make sure that the voices that percolate up through this process are absolutely representative of this community. There was a critique that is this sort of a chamber group 2.0, and the reality is I think, yeah, you want the business voice present, you want it very present, but you absolutely have to have people who are going to work it and the people who benefit from the quality of life issues of what gets determined here. When we initially discussed the 15% or 10% or wherever we were on the economic development issues, the truth is that our thinking on that was going to be framed by a very small group of people. A small group of people that we ourselves, the political elected leadership, were going to appoint. And now we're talking about reaching out beyond that group to get input from various aspects of this community. And I tell you, I love my city. And if you all have the benefit of getting out into all of the sections and corridors of this community and identify those people who love their city, and want to fall in love with their city, and part of that process is them giving input into this and imagining, if you will, to borrow you all's term, what the next generation of Tallahassee looks like. I don't take this as a slight to anything that we've done up to this point. Frankly, I think we have carried, whether you go from the Tennyson project to the Marriott property on Gaines Street, to the Tallahassee Center, to Gaines Street, to the Gateway project that we just broke ground on yesterday, which Hunter and Harp is involved with, the renovations on Hotel Duval, the over $150 million in private sector investment that's going to take place in the Gaines Street corridor. A lot is happening, not to mention Cascades Park and the potential redevelopment that's going to happen around that area. You know, Tallahassee in many ways is booming. But what we haven't done is start to think about and talk about in a really concrete and visionary way what the next iteration of our community looks like. And so imagine we'll take up some portion of this, and because of its tie to the blueprint discussion, there'll be some money hopefully associated with whatever comes out of this so that we can move it forward. And I think that's a good thing. But there'll be, my guess is, a laundry list of things that won't be able to be covered in that. And it'll give us a pretty good roadmap about how we ought to be prioritizing some of our own capital projects and future investments as a city in the county government. So a complete win-win. And I think, it can't go without saying that Blueprint 2000 is going to have to go up before all of the voters of this community. And this process has the benefit of reaching out to various parts of our community and getting buy-in into that process. And without that buy-in, it fails, it goes down. And so any effort that expands the pool of influencers, expands the pool of people buying into this, I think is all to the good. So 100% endorse the process. Mayor, if I would have had it my way, maybe I would have suggested, a couple more people or taken some other people off. But I don't want the perfect to be the enemy of the good in this. And I think the good absolutely outweighs what may be potential detractions. So I support it.
Commissioner Maddox, you got anything?
Yes. Thank you for doing this and for getting the dollars from the private sector. I think it has to be led by the community for it to succeed. I've lived through several of these. I remember the first one was Tallahassee, Florida with a Southern accent. Then we went through a visioning process that Commissioner Steve Meisberg pushed for that included charrettes and neighborhood meetings, and we ended up with the slogan of lifelong living and lifelong learning, which I thought was good for the community. However, we have not come up with an identity as to where we want to focus infrastructure and economic development dollars. That's been the missing part. I've often said on the campaign trail that one of my favorite advertisements I thought was clever was KFC's advertisement about we do chicken right. You know, if you want chicken, you go to KFC. Don't go for a salad. If you want chicken, go to KFC. Well, we haven't figured out what our chicken is in Tallahassee, and that's what I think we need to do. The piece that we have been missing is not a slogan, is not something that can be written on a bumper sticker. It is where are we going to put our dollars toward an end goal. It's not enough to say that we want economic development and we're going to chase jobs. What is it? What is our identity that we want to focus everything toward? So I'm glad to support it. I don't like the makeup of the committee, but I've made that no secret. I think we need to make sure that there isn't an agenda and that everyone comes to it with wanting to put their best foot forward and giving their input. But I do have faith in the Sales Tax Committee, and I hope that that message can be taken by them, and we can go through that process to make sure that we've got a holistic approach to community input, because the only way it's going to work when it gets back to this level is if you have that. Regardless of what happens out of the visioning product, when it comes back to us and we have to assign public dollars toward public projects that will pass through that rubric of, this is where we're going to spend the money, if it didn't come with broad consensus, it's never going to get passed here on the city or the county level. So that's my concern. With that, I'm glad to support the motion.
Well, I haven't had a chance. Let me talk. I think this is wonderful. I agree with Commissioner Maddox when he said we've gone through a lot of iterations in trying to determine a vision of what the city of Tallahassee is and what it's going to be and what it should look like. And we haven't been able to do that. So I think this is a great idea. I've talked with a number of individuals about it, and I fully support it, support the visioning concept. I just hope you're successful. We've been through this. This is nothing new for us to try and figure out what we're going to be when we grow up. We've got a great city. We've got a wonderful city. We're doing some wonderful things. We need to now take it to the next level, and that's what this is all about, taking it to the next level. I think the idea of a vision to me, is like a policy. Once you have a vision, once you understand where you're going to go, decision-making becomes really very, very easy. Because if you don't make a decision consistent with that vision or the policy, then it's wrong. It shouldn't. So I hope that you all are really, really successful. And obviously we're going to do everything we can to make sure that. I also said when I met with folks, I'm glad one thing about the steering committee. Quite frankly, I have some troubles with the steering committee. I really do. I think there's some folks missing. I think there's some groups missing from this committee. And I've expressed that. I don't think the south side of our community is adequately represented on this. I really don't. I think there's a South Side Business Association. I believe there is. I believe I met with them at one point in time, and they're not included in this. And I think there's some, and I don't know whether they exist again or not. They may have gone out, but I know I met with them down at the restaurant, Thai restaurant recently. So I'm just saying, I'm just concerned about that, and I know you want to get everybody involved. You should and you will, but that's a concern of mine. Now, having said that, the other thing I said is keep us out of this process. Keep the politicians out of what you're doing. We don't need to be in it, what you're doing. We'll get in it soon enough, but politicians, me included, have this idea. We kind of know what needs to be done. I want to see what the community says. I want to see what you all say this community should be like. All the other visioning processes, politicians were involved. And quite frankly, they didn't succeed. So I support that. I support you, and I just hope you're successful in getting us. Jacksonville did this many, many, many years ago when they decided to be what they wanted to be, and they've done a tremendous job in terms of defining what they want. And you can see how successful they've been, and they have been successful to the great extent. So anyway, I support it, and we got a motion, and we got other people who want to comment, and we'll go to Commissioner Miller.
There is one area, and this isn't a group, but one of the deep-seated values of this community lies in the concern that the residents have for their environment. One of the strongest elements behind Blueprint 2000 and its ultimate success was that there was a strong environmental effort. That's gotten us millions of dollars in stormwater retrofit and greenways and trails. But on your list, there's really no one that you can say is, or no group. What I would suggest to you and to my fellow commissioners is that we somehow figure out a way, without exceeding your 25, or if you have to, but include someone from the Big Bend Environmental Forum. You can end up with someone like Neil Fleckenstein, who is at Red Hills Conservation Association, tied into all of the, and then through that, you would have input from all the people who own plantations in the tremendous number of acreage locked up in these big land holdings in the northern part of our county. That's a big part of our environment. That protects our water supply. What do those people think about all of this? What are the ecotourism opportunities in every single part of the community, especially on the south side, by the way, with the Gopher Frog and Alligator Trail, the St. Mark's Trail, which is one of the most successful things we have. We have huge ecotourism opportunities to develop in the future in this community, and yet there's nobody on this committee that has any knowledge of any of that. So I am throwing that out.
Commissioner Gillum.
Makeup.
Senior moment?
No, junior moment. I did want to echo one thing, actually make sure that this was included. The recommendation doesn't read so clearly on how our staff would be involved. Manager, you made a comment and I didn't hear it all the way. I think you said that the staff of both the city and the county were going to be engaged throughout, and that as part of my motion, I just want to make sure that that is included in the process. And then secondly, Mayor, to your point, I think if we would have truly surveyed, actually to everyone's point, truly surveyed the community, there are probably a lot of voices that we'd like to see here. And what I'm hoping, and given what has been evidenced by this group's work in the past, is that they make a very strong effort, and in fact, it's been evidenced that they've been able to bring in components and voices from the community in this listening process that help to make I think, a representative voice. And they worked in communities that are far more diverse than the city of Tallahassee. And if you can do that in Austin, Texas, and still bring back an imagined or visioning process that the community feels they can buy in, I've got confidence that in a city like ours that we can accomplish the same thing.
Go ahead. Anything further? We have a motion and a second. All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
It passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Next item.
The next item is item number 13.02, 2013 Double Rebate Program for Energy Efficient Electric and Natural Gas Appliances. And Commissioners, in 2010, you approved the first double rebate program to encourage energy conservation and also to stimulate Tallahassee's economy. The program was very successful. Nearly 3,200 customers took advantage of the time-limited offer, and we are seeing a savings of 25 to 30 million kilowatt hours of electricity as a result of that program. Given that success, we're recommending bringing back the double rebate program to spur customer participation and additional energy savings. The program would run, if you approve it, February 14th tomorrow through April 30th. It's estimated to cost approximately $750,000. This amount has already been set aside as part of our demand-side management initiative. Reese Gold is here to answer any questions you
Move
might
staff
have.
recommendations.
Second.
Properly moved and second. Although we're down, I think we got a quorum.
There's 3 out of 5 every day.
All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
It passes unanimously. And I suspect that the other two commissioners, now that they're here, but they would support this motion as well. Next item.
The next item is 13.03, approval to appropriate $250,000 for DOE Innovative Energy Initiative Grant, which is Phase 2. And Commissioners, this item is seeking your approval to accept grant funding from the Department of Energy and also appropriate $250,000 in matching funds for the conversion of the city's existing utility field services day room into a meter network operations center.
Move the item.
Second.
Properly moved and second. 1303, all in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
It passes unanimously. Next item.
Item number 13.04, financing the government policy update. Commissioners, this is, and you've been briefed on this, this item provides revisions to the city's finance policy that have been approved by the City Commission as part of the budget process in recent years, but not formally codified ever up to this point. Revisions to the finance policy were last codified on February 22nd, 2006. This item codifies all City Commission approved finance policy actions since that date. I can go through each one of them if you would like.
Move the item.
Second.
Properly moved and second. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye. Mr. Mayor, if you could have the record reflect aye votes for me on the last two. I stepped out.
That's fine. I indicated that if you were here, you would have voted in favor of both
Well,
of those.
I voted in favor, had to run the
Okay.
restroom.
I'm sure that Commissioner Miller would do the same thing.
Well, I voted for one of
Yeah,
them.
well, one you missed, but we,
I did.
this, item 1304 passes unanimously. I think we voted.
Okay. 1305, authorization to accept a $115,000 grant from FDEP U.S. EPA for the TAP program. And Commissioners, the city's Think About Personal Pollution campaign is an award-winning public-private outreach and education project to reduce personal pollution in stormwater that degrades local lakes, streams, and springs. There was grant funding, as you know, available for 4 of the last 6 years of the program. For the past 2 years, in the effort to bridge the gap in funding, we funded the program, actually a scaled-back version of the program, through stormwater funds. The city was awarded partial funding for fiscal year 2013 in the amount of $75,000 for 2 specific elements, monitoring through focus groups and post-project survey and advertising video production. FDEP notified the city recently that grant funding in the amount of $115,600 would be available for 2014, and this item is being presented to the Commission to accept that money with no stipulations at this time as to how that money would be used. We'll come back to you with that. John Powell is here to answer any questions you
I'll
might
move the item.
Second.
Properly moved and second. We'll take $115,000 anytime. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
I have a couple of questions. You can
Oh, you
have
got
them
questions?
now or later. I do have a couple of questions. I'm not used to working with DEP and having them make no stipulations, so I didn't really quite understand that.
Good evening. We do expect that there will be stipulations, but at this time there are none. We do
So
not.
they just wrote you a check for $115,000 and said, have at it?
We don't
Spend
have
it
the
any way
money
you want.
yet. It still has gone up to EPA, and I understand that EPA has to finally approve it, and then we'll get the grant contract information along with potential elements that need to be funded at certain levels. But right now, there are no stipulations as to which element
Right.
needs.
But you expect some guidance.
We do, yes, ma'am.
Right. My other question was, who reports to DEP? Does Stormwater report to DEP? Does EPA report to DEP? Who is my understanding is that your department, EPA, made the grant request, correct?
That is correct. to
Right,
the
so
best of
you'll
my
be responsible for filling out all the paperwork and reporting the final report and all that to DEP.
I can't confirm that, but I can get back with you on that.
All right. And finally, the question, $115,000, I know that in our budget, we allocated money for TAP, I'm imagining. I don't remember it being a line item, but surely there was a number, and that number comes out of the stormwater fee money. And so I'm expecting this to offset that.
Yes, the agenda item indicates that it would offset that.
All right,
Commissioner.
thank you. Good. That's it. Can we vote?
All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
It passes unanimously. Why don't we continue on?
We're on our target issue updates, and we have 3. The first one is long-range planning.
Yeah, and at 6
Shall we
o'clock,
start with
we're going to public hearings on 6 o'clock.
Can we,
It's at 6 now, isn't it?
why don't we take a break and come back?
Would you like to take a break?
Yeah.
3
Come back?
minutes?
Yeah.
Say what now?
Okay.
Let's take a break and then come back.
Y'all want to take a break?
3-minute break?
2 minutes.
1 minute?
Let's take a break until 6 o'clock.
Okay.
Then we'll come back and do a public hearing.
6:01. Yeah, public hearing on.
public hearing on proposed ordinance number 13-0-05 entitled An Ordinance of the City of Tallahassee, Florida, amending the Tallahassee Code of General Ordinances, providing for additional homestead exemption for persons 65 and older who meet the criteria stated therein, providing for the amount of additional exemption, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
Any questions, any speakers?
There are no speakers.
No speakers?
Second.
Properly moved and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Next item. We're on
Back to target issues.
Okay,
target issue,
all right. Well, I guess
long-range planning.
this is our first opportunity on our new committees. We have, and this year, my target issue committee is long-range planning target issue committee, and I sit on that with Commissioner Scott Maddox. So we had a very full time when we met. The first item on our agenda was Affordable Housing Advisory Committee had come back with their recommendations. This is required every 3 years. They come back with recommendations, and we, as a body, will have to act on those recommendations. So we reviewed those. There were some changes made. The only thing that was somewhat controversial or required more discussion was about changes to the sidewalk policy, but in general, we recommended that this report be moved forward to the full commission for review.
Okay.
Second of all, we had a discussion of the Midtown Trolley, which all of you have been party to discussions about that, and the planning department presented, along with Star Metro, as to where they were in their thinking. As a Commissioner Maddox and I would like to ask you to jump in anytime you want to add anything to anything I say, but we felt that the route that they proposed was much too limited, and we wanted to see it cover much more time frame. It basically was Friday and Saturday evening, and we felt that it needed to be expanded somehow to basically focus more on people who live in Tallahassee versus just focusing on the students, expansion of hours, option of purchasing CNG trolleys. We discussed that. We want to set up a system where if we run this just through Star Metro, we won't be able to allow parties to rent it. Like in the past, we've had individual groups rent the trolley for different events, and that won't be possible if Star Metro operates it. And so staff is looking into other ways that we could acquire trolleys and also be able to offer those to businesses. I mean, it may be that different businesses in different parts of town might want the trolley on certain nights to go to their area. So more flexibility there. And we want it reintroduced as soon as possible. So I'm sure we'll have more updates on that as we go along. Next item was the Lake Alberta Park and moving the Tallahassee Junction trailhead for the bicycle trail to Lake Alberta Park. Long discussion. Committee action was basically to, we hope that the city will keep the Church's Fried Chicken property and perform an internal analysis of the site and looked for mixed use and RV parking potential on the Church's Fried Chicken property. We directed staff to delete the trailhead at Tallahassee Junction and relocate the trailhead along the Lake Bradford Road. And we've talked about this in the Blueprint IA meeting too, and that consensus there was the same. And the staff will bring back to the Long Range Target Issue Committee community gardens and urban farming concept for the property at the existing trailhead. Finally, we discussed the modification of the slopes provision in the city ordinance. I've got concerns that you will be fortunate enough to hear when it gets to us. I think that, and I'm not going to share this now. Staff is directed to bring the ordinance back to the full city commission for consideration after approval of the comp plan amendment. And I believe that is it.
Can I ask,
Yes.
let me ask a question. Is this I think I discussed this or mentioned this at the retreat in terms of our stormwater holding ponds and turning them into amenities.
You did.
Is this the committee that's going to take a look at how we can do that and what it takes to do that? I know we've got some things going on already. I don't know which target issue should address that. And I'm just trying to figure out where should it be and what would happen with that.
It should be that one.
Well, it's
Huh?
really,
It would be
It would be this one.
long-range planning.
Long-range planning?
Right.
Would y'all be kind enough to put that on your agendas? And we've got some mapping already done, GIS mapping, right? We've done some mapping to determine where the ponds are and what they should be. And I guess the next step would be pick out a certain number that we could work with and work with Gabe and see what we can do with that.
yes, and I knew, I had heard that you had had this GIS
Yeah.
project going on, and so I don't see Jay right now, but if somehow we can pass along to Jay Townsend that we'd like to.
Jay is back there and Gabe has it and some other folks. Jay is back there. He hears it. We can,
Okay, all right,
thank you.
thank you.
Quality of life?
Did we do that already?
That's you. Quality of life.
I'm sorry.
Did I put you to sleep?
No, I was focused, waiting for the next something. The mayor and I had a meeting earlier today for quality of life. We added over the senior center. It's a pretty sobering meeting because each one of the items that we discussed for the most part involved money and the need to address different issues. But our senior center is extremely successful to the point where it is busting at the seams. And we had a presentation by Sheila Salier from the senior center on what needs we might want to look at for a potential second location, which included 25 to 50,000 square feet, lifelong learning and educational opportunities, multipurpose gym, open space, state-of-the-art technology, a whole wish list of great and wonderful things that all come with a price tag. So we started to look at potential options. We have in our community we did have a significant amount of open retail that is being gobbled up because other communities have looked at taking over big box stores that have been emptied and utilizing those, but most of ours are slowly. In fact, we mentioned several options, and then there was a comment made from staff, oh, that's being taken by such and so on. So we did discuss, though, I had a conversation earlier in the week with, or last week I should say, we have a considerable amount of commercial office space that is being emptied by the state of Florida, and from what I hear, there's more online, so we directed staff to look at potential opportunities there for retrofit. We have no idea what any of these costs are, but we need to start this process because we are becoming and are being known as a place for retirees to come to, and our current center is completely maxed out, and so if we want to continue to provide our senior citizens opportunities, we need to do a better job. So we'll have a presentation on that, and our staff will be looking at options. We then had a presentation.
Let me just comment on that, on the senior center. You know, it's kind of one of those good news, bad news story that the commissioner mentioned, and that's that we looked at the box stores that are empty around town as potential places for a senior center. The good news is that apparently they're being gobbled up by other retail operations at this point in time. The bad news is obviously we can't use them for a senior center for future expansion. But we, as Commissioner Ziffer has indicated, we really have to look at this issue, because if we're going to attract baby boomers through what's the name of the project? Choose Tallahassee. If we're going to do Choose Tallahassee, we've got to have the resources and we got to have the amenities. We got to have the kind of infrastructure in place to accept them. And one of those would be, we have a quality senior center now, but it is overcrowded. I mean, it needs to be expanded. They need a new operation. So we're going to have to seriously think about how we do this. If we're going to, and I suggested to the individuals, they talk to the Choose Tallahassee people and make sure that they understand what we're trying to do here, because we can't do this without those things in place. Go ahead.
Right. We also talked about the fact that in other communities have done it. There's public-private partnership possibilities, so that we're not looking at strictly perhaps a government-funded operation. There may be other opportunities for us. So our staff has been directed to bring us back some different options so that we can at least start to move this down the road. We had a presentation from our animal control folks on a review of the ASPCA effort that we had, and we actually had a very difficult year when it came to what we were trying to achieve. We were trying to reduce intakes, and we actually had an increase in intakes and some other numbers. So we're going to be redoubling our efforts in this coming year. Funding is an option for hiring more support people, particularly a vet. The most important thing, it's fairly simplistic, but basically we have too many animals coming in and not enough going out. And so if we can have a pretty solid educational effort within our community regarding how we need to decrease the number of animals coming into our control center and also the availability of animals to be adopted, and most importantly, more than anything else, is get your animals spayed and neutered so that we don't have more animals than we can control, we would be far more successful at what we're trying to do. And then we had a presentation earlier from Susan Porchow, and also we had a brief presentation by Domestic Violence Coordinating Council. It was established in 1995, and it provides a forum for organizations to coordinate and cooperate to address domestic violence. One of the things that was mentioned, which I think is extremely valuable, is it's not only a matter of presenting to groups of victims, but it's also they've been making significant number of presentations to those that might be the ones
potential violators.
Potential violators. Because if we could reduce the number of people that are the violent ones, then clearly we have far fewer, mainly women, that are victims of that violence. So they've made substantial presentations to different groups that that have that propensity to do that, and they think they've making an impact in our community, which is good. But they can always do more, and so we'll be following that as well.
The only other thing I would add is to the Animal Service Center update is that we had discussions about a no-kill policy. And how do we get there, and should that be an objective? And I think everybody kind of agrees that maybe that should be an objective, but how do you get there? We were told that there's only one municipal animal service center in the nation that has that and has reached what we can consider a no-kill rate, and that's Austin, Texas. We always comparing ourselves with Austin. But I think we need to have, because it's a very expensive proposition to get there, but it's something that we need as a community to begin to take a look at whether or not we want to get there, and what steps do you want to do? Do you want to announce a policy now that we're going to reach there, or we want to take it in increments? And it is a complicated issue, but we want to bring you up to date on that.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we talked about was it's not only a matter of money. It's a general awareness in the community, and we talked about perhaps reaching out to our school system, to our children, so that they can become more aware of what our situation is, so that perhaps they could help us with this. Because it's not only a money issue, it's a community issue. It's more people being involved. It's more people being aware, so we'll work on that.
Exactly. Next.
Financial viability.
Thank you, Commissioner Ziffer.
You're quite welcome, Commissioner Maddox.
Wow.
Just didn't want to let it go without saying thanks for your work. The financial viability of the government target issue committee, we've been dealing basically with 4 issues. Updating of various financial policies. We'll be bringing to the City Commission updates to policies, basically codifying changes made by the Commission during the budget processes of the last few years. The first one, the financing the government policy, we brought tonight, which you saw on the agenda. As we go along, we'll be bringing more of these issues. We've been working with the auditor to point out where there's discrepancies in policy. So we'll be bringing on the capital improvement policy, as well as the City Commission policy related to retiree health care. Electric and gas rate studies. The staff is currently working on finalizing 2013 rate studies for electric and the natural gas systems. The preliminary results indicate that overall rates will remain steady or show a slight decline effective in April of 2013 for both utilities. We anticipate those studies to come to the Commission for consideration and approval in March of this year. The double rebate program and energy efficient electric and natural gas appliances, the rebates for those we dealt with this evening. I think that's a great program that was initiated by this body prior to me being here, and we are excited about doubling down on behalf of our citizens. I think it will be widely used. And then healthcare subsidies and coverage. We're discussing those issues, and we anticipate bringing those back to the Commission as well. I want to thank Commissioner Gillum, who serves with me on that committee. And you have anything to add, Commissioner?
No, sir. Got it.
That's it.
Next item.
We're on unagended speakers.
Are there any?
Mayor, we have 3 unagended speakers. The first is Washington Sanchez, and then following Mr. Sanchez will be Denna Green Corbett. I'll remind speakers that they have 3 minutes to provide their remarks. There will be a light to the left of your microphone that
Either one. Okay.
Any order you want.
You do it in order.
Corbett first.
You all are together? Okay, well, yeah, you're 3 minutes each.
So we have Bob Streeter, Denna Green Corbett, and Washington Sanchez. The 3 of them will decide which order, but they'll each have 3 minutes. The light to the left of the microphone will be green and then turn yellow when you have 30 seconds left.
Okay. Pleasant good afternoon, Mr. Mayor and distinguished members of City Council. I'm here today for an event that is coming up in Tallahassee. My name is Reverend Robert E. Streeter III, 926 Caraway Street in the city of Tallahassee. On April the 5th and 7th, they'll have the Homeless Veteran Stand Down. And what I'm going to do is, unlike many ministers, I'm going to relinquish my time to a distinguished humanitarian. He's an honorable Purple Heart recipient, and he's going to be speaking. Colonel Sanchez, and before that, Denna Green Corbett. She's going to share her very important part that she's participating in this great event for this city, to show the compassion of Tallahassee and to not to forget our veterans, and particularly those that are MIA, missing in action, because there's no place like home. Denna.
Right ahead. Next.
Good afternoon to everyone. And of course, you'll get a full view of what's going on with the stand down, how it will come together, and all the services that will be provided. But my job here is to pull those veterans out of the woods and bring them home and put them into, hopefully, an enclosure that will provide them with the services that they so well deserve. My question to you is that the Sheriff's Department of Tallahassee has guaranteed me that I will have services to escort me into the woods once again, such as they did during when they did during the homeless count point in time survey. I'm asking each and every one of you to join me. It will be during the last week of March. I would like for you to be able to see what these veterans face, how they live, how they are creative, and being able to pull together and make it out there in the field, but yet I want you to see how sick they really are. They really need a lot of help, but they don't know how to get it. My second question is to invite you to the stand down. It will begin the morning of April the 5th, and it will go until April the 7th. We want to begin graduation. If time is kept on schedule, at 2 o'clock, it shall be done by 4. You are welcome. Please join us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, my name is Washington Sanchez at 2229 Gates Drive, Tallahassee, Florida. I'm the director of the North Florida Homeless Veteran Stand Down. We were on your agenda earlier, but we were able to get resolved what we needed so we wouldn't have to ask for support funding. But after seeing the article in the paper on Monday, I just could not help but come here and say something about stand-downs for veterans, because the article talked mostly about the 1,002, but did not talk about the fact that we had 57 additional veterans identified as being homeless in Leon County, probably within the city. I went out on Monday, the 28th of January, and I was just completely taken back to see people living like I saw in 1965 when I was in Vietnam. I almost had a flashback just going out there, seeing what was going on. It is appalling that that was the case. Out of the 6 people we saw and interviewed that morning, 4 of them were veterans. Okay, so we've got a problem that we should be dealing with. Now, one of the things we will do with the stand down, we are in cooperation with over 60 of our community individuals who are supporting us, 60 companies and organizations that are supporting, like Big Band Homeless Coalition that you just heard about with Susan talking to you, as well as the Renaissance Center. All of those veterans are homeless, and they will be coming to the stand now for the purpose of getting the VA services that will be provided and the number of community services that are being provided as well. One of the things that Dina has within her program is a HUD-VAS program, which is similar to Section 8. And Section 8 allows, and as you very well know, an individual to have a voucher and is paid for what have you. So we'll be actually processing people such that we can give them that. Plus, we'll be processing people such that they can get a job. I mean, we're working with Workforce Plus. We're working with other agencies that will do the same thing, helping us with jobs. We in the Florida Veteran Foundation provide the rent deposit as well as utility deposit for the HUD-VAS program. And we're running out of money for it because that's an area that we have so many people that need. Plus, we have people that are almost to lose their property as well. And I asked your support. There was a program, and I'm not sure whether or not it's in being. There was a program to maybe Tallahassee Utilities would maybe waiver or suspend the deposit such that people, so that we wouldn't have to pay out of our funds, out of the foundation funds, for those deposits. I can understand the rent deposit, but I can't understand why we have to do the other. So one of the last things I'd like to leave you, and I talk to everyone when I do, we also serve at-risk veterans, at-risk to homeless veterans as well. The definition of an at-risk to homeless veteran is not a veteran who has lost their house or maybe the car broke down, they can't get to work. It is a veteran who is living with mother, father, sister, brother, aunt, cousin, or friend, or somebody just took them in, and they are one argument from being homeless. Just think about it. And those are the people that we will also serve as well. So I ask your support, not asking for financial support now. We will come back later and ask you for some assistance as we try to work through private donations to get the funds to do what we want to do. We don't want to come to you with our hands out, but we do need some in-kind support. And when we ask for that, I hope we have your support. The mayor is supporting us with a PSA. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Commissioner Ziffer.
Well, I just wanted to recognize Dina. She briefly mentioned it, but she was my group leader on Monday night when we went out in Point of Time, and was a great group leader. And also, I want to mention Sean Knowles and the hard work that he does out at Veterans Village. You said you're not asking for a handout, but quite frankly, we all need to reach a handout to our veterans. Right. Because by lifting them back up, there are opportunities for them to get housing. Oh, sure. And the work that you do is something that I've already committed to Dina that I'll be at the event, and right. And I encourage my other commissioners to join us.
Yes.
Commissioner Maddox.
Sir, thank you for your service. And for those of you that may not know, that pin on his left lapel means that he shed blood in the service of his country. Thank you very much for that.
Welcome.
Thank you all for coming tonight.
Commissioner Miller.
Thank you for coming tonight. Just to introduce us to the program, in the handout that you all prepared for us, which is really complete, you've got a page that says, what can you do? And one of the things that you have on here is donate clothing and comfort and household items. So if you could get us a little bit more information about what types of things, where they should go, then we can project that information to others.
Man, we have that on our website. If you go to our website, there is a button you can click on that tell you exactly that. Plus, you get a receipt for what you have donated, plus it's a tax-deductible receipt as well.
Well, you know, as a veteran, you certainly to a veteran, you certainly have my support, and I'll do whatever I can to help with the stand down. I'm going to make sure it's on my calendar. The dates are on my calendar, so I can, in some fashion or form, participate. And I will. And I got my pen. Although I don't have a Purple Heart pen, you gave me a pen.
But you're a Purple Heart city, sir. That's
right.
A Purple Heart capital city, and the first one.
We're the first Purple Heart capital city in the nation, thanks to Washington Sanchez. We want to thank you for that, and we do appreciate our veterans.
All of us worked.
All right. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
There are no other speakers?
Anybody want to share anything?
I'd like to say happy birthday to Commissioner Gil Ziffer.
I think we've done that a couple of times.
Special day, so I just want to...
We sang happy birthday in the back, unless somebody has this urgent feeling to sing it happy birthday again.
No, but thanks to all of you. It has been a very good birthday.
All right. I don't think we have anything else. Stand down and stand adjourned.
I shouldn't, but they're going to go to Pummel.
with the Department of Growth Management. Code number 142. Application deadline. Apply on or before February 15th, 2013. Minimum training and